Trashidele, everyone. Today we are receiving a very profound special teaching at Doha of Milarepa from a very special teacher, Venerable Drupon Khenpo Lodro Namgyal, who is the retreat master as well as Khenpo of Pular Monastery in Kathmandu, the great Dharma seed of His Eminence the Jamgon Khenpo Rinpoche in Kathmandu, Nepal. Before he started teaching, our Khenpo, the KDD abbot, Venerable Khenpo Orgen Tenzin, will give a short speech of welcoming you and introduction, little concise introduction of the Drupon Khenpo La. First of all, I would like to say Tashi Dele, everyone who are physically present here and as well as who are receiving teaching online. We, KDD, have requested Drupon Khenpo Lodro Namgyal to teach teaching, which he kindly accepted our request, and today is the time to teach. So to give you a little bit historical background, Drupon Khenpo and we studied together at Kamashiri Nalendra Institute at Rumtek, the great Dharma seat of His Holiness the Young Karmapa in India. And not only we studied together, we were also classmates, and not only that, also we were roommates. So after his graduation from Karmasiri Nalanda Institute, he entered into the traditional 3-year retreat. And then after he finished his retreat, he has been teaching as a retreat master there, as well as he has been practicing all of his life. So the place where he practiced 3-year retreat is Pulahari, the seat of His Eminence Jamgon Khenpo Rinpoche in Kathmandu. And when he was practicing in retreat, the retreat master was the Khenpo Rinpoche. So whatever Khenpo Rinpoche realization have already poured into him, just as like we're pouring from one vase to another vase. So he is a fully realized master. So since he has been practicing this teaching for many decades, almost 3 or 4 decades, whatever he's teaching right now is not just teaching, but it is coming actually from his own realization. So it is extremely fortunate for all of us who have this great opportunity to receive teaching from such a great teacher. Therefore, please listen to him well. Okay, now the KDT Abbot Khenpo Origin Tenzing's remark is done. Now we're going to do the opening chant. I think you will see on your screen. So please join me. It's going to be done in Tibetan. Okay, I'm going to start now. Oi Sangye Sangye Jonam Lai Shanjo Pardo Tane Gyasai Dagye Shizu Yebe Sonami Dola Benja Sangye Drupara Shu Sangye Shedaya Sogye Shonam Chanjong Bardo and Dane Yazoi Dage Jezoi Gebe Sanam Doloi Benja Sange Dobrai Joy Sange Jedaya Zoye Shonam Chanjoy Bardo and Dane Yazoi Dage Jezoi Gebe Sanam Doloi Benja Sange Dobara Sho Semje Tamje Dewa Dan De Yodan Dabara Gyurch Dunga Da Dunga Ye Yodan Dabara Gyurch Dunga Mebe Dewa Dabada Mendo Nyeren Chadan Yedan Drebe Danyam Shabola Nebra Gyure Je Semje Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Yodan Debra Gyure Dunga Da Dunga Ye Yodan Rawa Dunga Mebe Dewa Sambada Mendra Vara Gyure Nyeren Chadan Yedan Drebe Danyam Shabola Nebra Gyure Je Semje Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Yodan Debra Gyure Dunga Da Dunga Ye Yodan Debra Gyure Dunga Mebe Dewa Tamba Da Mendra Gyure Nyeren Shadan Yedan Drebe Danyam Chambola Nebra Gyure Je Chanzo Wadan Jujin Chabodan Chezo Hira Koshen Sowa Yewa Jose Dagin Jezab Hamje Dagin Shangje Chengo Yahu Sashi Bejo Shoshe Medo Tram Reda Lingshen Yisen Gemba Sangye Shindo Meden Hawai Rogo Namda Yin Lai Je Bara Sho Semje Namge Samba Dan Loye Shida Shida Chechen Tomon Tekpa Yin Shige Kol Kordo
Sangye Trinley, Francis Chigu Dizeba, Sabe Lame Shamba Bichata. Last order on honey or during that. De la singing churo thoma la thoma somebody test de down me.
First of all, I would like to say Prashidere and greetings to all of you who are listening Dharma today.
Tene Kazan Dawa Kashi Gingla Tene Kidigi Tinjin Lama Lode Lamo Toyula Tene Chate Jungson, Tene Kungi, the online Gala that this is Chigla Chi, any Shena degree and Sumudu or then degree Shibai, then the legend that ring or Gyan Ishindu, Arigi Dansa, Kitidila. And Chide Churo Namladini, Chigi, Drilling Shag, Gogop, Toba the Bay, any Gavoyation, Fuji.
So a few months ago, the KDT president, Lama Lodro Lamo, was in Kathmandu and I met her. And at that time, she asked me if I request you to teach teaching, is that okay? Then I said, that's okay. And that's what happening today. And actually, I'm very happy because I'm having this opportunity to teach at the request of the KTT Monastery, which is the main seat of His Holiness the Young Karmapa in North America.
Then during Shagi, any Chudi, Milarepa Gur, any Kongi, Shalop, Lengum Revala Sungshabe, they do Shenjegi Gurdere.
So the teaching I'm going to teach today is a song of Milarepa, Doha, which was taught to one of his students named Lengum Repa, and the name of the guru is distinguishing happiness from suffering.
Then they do Shinjigi Gurdi, the Devadan Dungal Ki Keperchine, Sungiore. Then Keperchesagi Shidi, Naljur Badan Chebasine, Nishanando.
So this, when we say the song of distinguishing happiness from suffering or miserable situation, then how he taught was, he taught based on a yogi and a general practitioner.
The Dangunga Zawadi Lotion, and the Digan Dishigan, this good Chagre, somebody. And with Zawa Dangudi Lona.
So I think I'm going to read the root text, which is the original song of Milarepa. Then I will go through the explanation. I think that will be the good way to do so.
The Dambo deduction, Dambudi Lona. Then Rango Rangi Shebe, Nelu, Den Dembe, Nalur Namyang de Tulbe Jesu, Dangni, Dungal Drinki Jebe, Cheba Namyang du Songdoa.
So, okay, there are a few versions of English translation on this Doha, and then many people say this one is the best one. So I'm using this translation. And according to this translation, it was translated by someone called Chris, who passed away already. And he was the one of the best translation of Narayana Bodhi Pondramuji's student. Okay, this is his translation. Anyway, the first two lines reads, the yogi who knows his own face and is in contact with the true nature's reality is always happy. The practitioner who follows after confusion and produces something is always miserable.
Oh, that Dilla Dring Naljurubadan Chebasane, Ni Sungdua, in the Naljurubadi Namyang Devare, Chebadi Namyang Dubores.
So Milarepa actually says two different ways. He's a yogi and general Dharma practitioner. And then here Milarepa says the yogi is always happy and the general practitioner is always miserable.
The Dilla Dini Naljurubadan Chebanyaki Kever Sungdu Gasu, Dini Dilla Dambo, any Muriji Shina, 정글로리 타기 숭여래 아니 강사 타말바 날주르바 개종 아니 타말바 아스네 강사라 릭 넘버 숨숭래
강사 파말바 난지르바 딩디 강상서라.
날주르바제 개종 선아 네가 그다
Okay.
최
Okay.
네 개종 타말바
Okay. So if I'm going to say something between differences between this the yogi and the general practitioner, and the Jamgon Khenpo Lodro Namgyal said 3 differences. He says yogi and general practitioner and the ordinary people.
드니 정글로리 타기 날주르 봤어야지 아니 어레 당부 타말 봤어야 돼 근데 질레 세계에서는 또 녀몽 개인도 땅나 타말 바래요 선아디 녀몽디라 라운테나 녀몽 개인도 땅나 타말 바래스 녀몽 고도나 개종레스 녀몽 라오시나 날주르 바래스
계정도 가상서로 냐몽 네 디.
녀몽 고는나
Okay.
네
Awesome. So Jamgon Khenpo says those of us who are under the control of klesha or who just let the klesha be in itself, that is what we call the ordinary people. And those of us who can suppress down the klesha, which means who can bring the klesha under our control, is general practitioner. And those of us who really understood or realized the nature of klesha is what he called the yogi.
디엔데드니 지드미라레베 구르나라 날저르 숭야디 정글로리 타기 녀몽 랑오시나 날저르 바이 숭야디 텔라 숭고 사레
So I think here, Milarepa, when he says yogi, I think he's referring the definition that Jamgon Lodro Namgyal gave, who said those of us who recognize or realize the ultimate nature of klesha is the yogi. So I think that's what Milarepa meant when he said yogi in this song.
네, 다 장물로 타기다 강사가 릭 니바딜라 개종송로 개종세디 녀몽 고는나 개종을 했으므래.
And then second type of person or second type of individual, Jamgon Lodro says practitioner or gejong in Tibetan, which can be translated as practitioner. He says those of us who can suppress down the klesha, and that is categorized in the category of practitioner, Dharma practitioner.
어디에 가서다 이제 녀몽 개인도 땅나 디 타말 바래요 송디 다 타말 바들라 릭니 샤고 사래 선다 릭니 시디 가서더니 타말 바스디 낭술라양 타말 바인 버체 애니 양 낭술라 최바인 버젤라 애니 된라 타말 바인 바 드니 제드밀라레베델라 최바 남양 두세 최바디 따난기 최바여라.
So, and Jamgon Khenpo said the third individual is those of us who just let the klesha be its own way, or which means who are under the control of klesha itself. Then I think we can again classify into two classifications of this the third type of person, which we call the ordinary, which is seemingly practitioner, but ultimately ordinary person, and which another one is both seemingly and ultimately both the ordinary person. And then here, what Milarepa said is that those of us who look like a practitioner, but actually just know better in any way than the ordinary person.
디가서다 최바타낭 세디 가서 녀몽발라 다마다지 애니 녀몽 왕도도 애니 나랑서 드니 지단게 드니 철룩당 초가 장린 담라 최수진 드니 철룩드진 초가 장린의 여보제 드니 녀몽디 개인도 당사 녀몽라 다마송아제 녀몽라 다마다 녀몽기 니밍마삼 녀몽라 개인도 당사나 디 낭술라 최바이네 된라 그래 담을 봐라 어디인다더니 지드미라레베디바 최바 남양도 세 최바디 어딘데 최바라 송에사래 송.
So I think when Milarepa said the practitioner is always miserable, here is the superficial practitioner, which I said earlier, who looks like a real practitioner, good practitioner, but not really practicing very good Dharma ultimately. For example, you know all the rituals, you wear all the Dharma robes, and you yourself manage to appear to be a good practitioner, but somehow you have been not able to see the kleshas as enemy, and you just let the klesha go be its way, and you are going under the control of klesha. And that is what I think Milarepa meant here when he says the practitioner is always miserable.
디야데는 가서 넘긴 세딜라 신나 쳐바민라가 가서 디인들이 나는 가서 로비 인력이 최박이다 최념린 지역이 고림디 로비 인력이 투림라네 퇴바제 삼바제 검자송라 손내 퇴단 삼점에 검발라랍도 저성라.
So actually we always says that those of us who has attachment to this life is not real Dharma practitioner. And if you want to know the process how we should practice the Dharma well, is again Vasubandhu said in his Abhidharma Kosha, he says, first of all, we have to have one of the morality or shila, chultim, the precept of the morality, moral ethics. And then we have to go through the study or listening and contemplation and meditation. That's how we then become a good practitioner.
올라스 디인도 가서 드린 가서 출림런네 퇴바단 삼바 공바제에서 되더니 최기 냠랭기 림바레디 이나 양더니 출림런네 퇴바 삼바 공바제베 최기 림바디 세딜라 신비 왕기 제나 근데 낭술라 제바이나 양 늘나가래 최마인 바차고라 최단랑 차고라 디인당 세딜라 신 최바민 제도서 디라 세딜라 신바 로베 거네 근데 출림런네 퇴바 삼바 공바제나 디 최양다 차고라 디다다 추림라네 퇴성 것음 지에서에 최술디 양다보다 따능 니여라 디 양다 따능디 꾸능고네 에와체고를 마도 되네 능술라 책바로 거니.
So again, even it is the step how we become a good practitioner. First, we have to receive one of the moral ethics, and then by keeping that unbroken, purely, then we study or listen Dharma, contemplation, and meditation. But somehow, still, that is not sufficient. As I said earlier, if we are attached to this life, that means we are not a good practitioner yet. Therefore, even it looks exactly the same from the outward, but inner motivation is again very important. So if you have a genuine sense of renunciation or revulsion, then on top of that, then you have the pure morality, and you have studied, and you have contemplated, and you meditate. Then that is very good practitioner from outwardly and inwardly. But somehow, even you took the vows, morality or moral ethics, and even though you study, contemplate, and meditate, but somehow, if your mind is still attached to this life, and if you don't have a pure renunciation or revulsion, then you are someone who look like a Dharma practitioner, but not really a good Dharma practitioner yet.
드리 이제 가서 아니 디 켜버디 하거나 강사 릭숨기 켜버디 하거나 드는 거는 드는 마 지금 밀레베 날주로 받은 최반이기 켜버디 야구하고 그래서 말이에요.
So I think if you understand well the differences between these three individuals, then when Milarepa is differentiating or distinguishing between the yogi and the practitioner, you will understand well.
올라서 다 디에들은 가서 지등기 순거들라 당보 거르송들라나 날주로 봐서야지 간del라 고그래라나 랑기시 내륙 된다는데 봐서라 다 랑기시 내륙 된다는데 나주 남양대에서 랑기시에서야지 따와라 내륙 된다는데서 공부하라 디에들이 차게 침부 또베 따와당 되는 데라 덴바트지도 내가 공부니당 덴바디 나절 봐라서라.
So in first line, Milarepa says, the yogi who knows his own face and is in contact with the true nature's reality is always happiness. So here, when he says the yogi who knows his own face is actually telling us about the view of Mahamudra. And then when it says, who is in contact with the true nature's reality is teaching us about the Mahamudra meditation. So those of us, those yogi who possess these two qualities of the Mahamudra view and Mahamudra meditation, and that is someone we can call yogi.
Hola, tienda de dambo rango rangi shesedi. Any digazu rangi semla gogora, or di semgi ngoham, semgi nelu, any semgi shebadanda, soso rangi be shegi, semgi nelu tobadela, labore.
So when it says the yogi who knows and the yogi who knows his own face actually is saying about the face of our mind. That means the yogi who has already realized the nature of his mind with the co-emergent wisdom. And that is what it means, the first part of the first line.
Tiandani Jangulu Tayagi Sungro, the Nato Tawa Yakshi the Garelana. Simging Motomadi, Tawe Chore, the Simging Modi, the Chetamjig Nelu Chagachambadra, Chetamjig Nelu Chagachambo, Saldon Sunzuba, Tongba, Changche Maimba, Tongba City, the Namrang Bedundam, Namrang Bedundam, any Tongba Tongjang, the Maimba, the Ni Kunshi Kunrigi, Salcha Magakshindu, Mong Sung the Tongbani, yang namgun chungdeng ki tongni la gra tanda tele gode basena saldong sungju ti sembi nelu re ta hing chai
Marilla na chi te chi se re yo
ale lasra
che je laso ultimate reality that can be expressed in words namdang bitandam enumerated ultimate. Last one. So Khenpo Lodro Thai said again, the best view is to realize one's own mind, which is nothing but the Mahamudra, which is the inseparability of clarity and emptiness. And when we say emptiness, emptiness is just not a mere emptiness. And then Namgun Chokden means emptiness which possesses all the supreme aspect. And that is, it is called Namdang Vitandam in Tibetan, which is translated as ultimate reality that can be expressed in words, or enumerated ultimate. Onlaso.
Hola. Ta di indigo so dini ngaso dela jitumila rebe dini o dedu shenje dangbo sumyora. Dangbo sumji ngaso chakjingi ngodre sumdang jarne sumdu sumdu. The Ngodre Dangbo Garilan, Semni Chiguru Ngodreba Sunra.
Semni Chugul Ngodreba.
The Semni Chiguru Ngodreba Sunra.
Lasso.
The Rango Rangi said, any Sembi Nelu Chugur Ngodrebadi, any Moshi Vitajiara, Rango Rangi said, Ngodre Dangbo de Sunra.
Lasso. So here, out of this Milarepa song, the first three line, which first, let's say, are the introduction of Mahamudra. And then I think the first one, when he said, the yogi who knows his own face and is in his contact with the true nature's reality is always happy, is introduction, the our mind to Dharmakaya.
Hola. The Rangsam Chigi Guru Ngotrabadi. Any rango rangi shebadre or di taware tene taware tawa dela temba ginchas nebadi gombare songra jangul thayge sumanaji temba gincha mena gombe te songra tene neluk to betawa dela temba ginchas ne tumna di gomba yakshidre songra di hola chidimila nelu den songra then they to Saudi Temba Jesma Maiba, Tela Temba Ginchas Nebadla, Tendon Temba said this one.
So when he said this, The yogi who knows his own face and is in contact with the true nature's reality is always happy. First one is, as I said earlier, introducing our own mind into Dharmakaya. And then as Jamgon Thai said, even after we realize the nature of mind, if we cannot remain or sustain on that understanding or that realization, then it's not very sufficient. And then after we realizing our own mind, then we have to be able to sustain or remain in that realization. And that is what the second line says, in contact with the true nature of reality. And that is what it shows the meditation. And then Jamgon Lodro Thai also said, after you realize the nature of your mind, if you can remain on that realization, and that is the best meditation practice.
Hola. O dine indi ka sada.
Ke iji yakbo sengi rawa nga nor songna ke songsho la nga.
Hola gaga.
Ke ki ma song songro jige me mo ke iji be yakbo ke nga goro. Nga di khala ke ma da songro jin ba.
Gaga.
Yakshu ti de nga chela le songna ke nga song yang ja song ro che.
Love.
Ga tin che.
Love. O dine indi ka sada ni nganzo ngotre sumdida mo tesu dordi shena. Ta nganzo simni chugu guru ngotre ba songro.
Laso.
그냥 아주 상기기 규나라 심리 행기 추기고 나와 행지기가 추구해 송로
Laso.
이 뭐저 넘버 2래 나와 뭐저 받은 생 뭐저 봐서 니도
Laso.
이 상기기 규나라 송요래 이 간라 더블 해지기 직 대반내요래 남도 행지기 봐 추구 쌀 송래
Laso.
디디들은 심리 행지기 봐 남도 행지기 봐 나와 행지기 봐
Laso. So first I'm going to say briefly, concisely about these three introduction, which are introducing our own mind into Dharmakaya. Semi Lenji Geba means the co-emergence mind or spontaneously arisen mind is introduced to be the Dharmakaya. And then now Lenji Geba Chogu means the co-emergence appearance is the radiance of Dharmakaya. The radiance of Dharmakaya, and these two are actually taught by Buddha himself into the Tantra, and on top of that, Gamboba add one more, which is Namdo Lenji Geba Chuk Karitzal Semgizal Song Chuguzal. Okay, and then Gamboba said the co-emergent conceptual thought or the innate conceptual thought is the play of the Dharmakaya. So these are the three introductions: the Dharmakaya itself, and the radiation of Dharmakaya, and the play of Dharmakaya. Sometimes it's also a magical play, but I would just play. In Tibetan, it's rolpa. Lasola.
Laso. Dine Milarepa Gurdambodi, Rango Rangi Sedi, then Semi Chugu Guru Motrabadi, Sungosare.
So the first line of Milarepa here in this song, I think when he said the yogi who knows his own face, I think he is introducing us our mind into the Dharmakaya.
Las. Dine did and Semi Chugu Guru Motrene, Della Tempa Ginjes Nevadella, Neluk Denda Dembas.
Then after introducing us the nature of our mind being Dharmakaya, then to remain uninterruptedly or sustain on that realization, when he said in contact with the true nature's reality, is actually he's teaching us the Mahamudra meditation.
Oh, they do with it, number Dabadang, common number Dava. So
the one who possess or who practice in this way the pure view along with the pure meditation, or who meditate the pure meditation along with the pure view is the real yogi. So if you think or you ask, what is the benefit of being such a yogi? Then Milarepa said, he is always happy.
Namyang Dese, Dundadi Garelana, Penna Namyang Dese, Nedan Kandina Line and the Woyang Resmota, Tunda, Kangal Tenayang Kibore, any Punsun Soba Juna Kibore, me Kandeda Tenayang, Ne Gawa Nenayang, then Korangi throw Girdo ready, Nela Ralegimare, Kansala Ralegimare, or the Ne Gawa Nenayang Kibore, Kansadi, Najalbadi, then Kansa Sudan Yamdu, Kansa Sambo and Yaba Sudan Dona. Najrubadilla, Niga Kibores, Niga Ronyamra.
So the
Dana
definition of
Nedang Yabodan Tubo Garejune, Nedang Yabokasuyang, Najubadi Kibotrugre, Nedang Tubujune, Kibotrugres.
So the definition of being always happy here is again, once you have this kind of meditation and view, then your emotion or your happiness, your inner feeling doesn't depend on outer environment at all. So it doesn't matter wherever you are, what kind of condition you are in, whether you are in some unconducive condition or conducive condition or unfavorable situation or good situation or perfect situation, and also no matter what kind of people you are associating with, good people, bad people, you are innerly always happy because your happiness, that your inner feeling and emotion doesn't depends on outer environment anymore. That's the definition of when Milarepa says always happy.
All Digi Dokchodi, Tulbe Jesu Dangni, Dungal Dinki Jeba, Sora. The Chebatanang de Resu, Chebatanang de. Tell Chebagi Mingda. Nangsu on the Jene Chebala.
And then the opposite of that, Milarepa said, the practitioner who follows after confusion and produces suffering is always miserable. So now Milarepa is telling us about someone who look like a practitioner, but not really a practitioner. So we can say maybe hypocritic or superficial practitioner.
All other. The Dindigi Chebatanang de Tini Garisalan de la Tulbe Jesu Dang, Dungal Dingi Jesura. Tulbe Jesu Dang said the Trubadi, Nanzo, any Tulbe Tawadi Maribare, Teni Maribala, Kendu Matong, Teni Marib Jesu Dang. Teni Digala, Tulbaniba de Galana, Sedila Simba, Korwala Simba, Teni Dangdela Simba. Or Dana said, the Tamjaki Tawadi, Mubo Longomber Simba. The Simba Shigi won the song as Yara. Tilla didn't be just Dangla.
So when Milarepa said, the practitioner who follows after confusion, now we have what is the confusion? Then, of course, the root of confusion is ignorance. And then when we don't see the shortcoming of ignorance, then we just follow after the ignorance. Then what happened? Then the second confusion, which is being attached to this life, being attached to the benefit of one's own self, and then taking everything as real. This, I miss one of them. Shemba Shidi Chik Sendile Shemba, Dagdon Shemba, Mobile Shemba, Chidi
Dagdon Shemba?
Dagdon
Shemba? No. Sedile Shemba, Korola Shemba?
Oh, Korwa, okay. Korwa, and then, yes, and being attached to samsara. So these four attachments, when we have that, then we cannot be a good practitioner. So these are, let me repeat again one more. Being attached to samsara, being attached to this life, being attached to the benefit of oneself, and taking everything as real. And these are called the four attachment. So this is the second confusion after the ignorance. Then those of who following these things, then they are always miserable. Lasso.
Digasu the Tulbe Jesu Dang said that Tulba di Shira. So the Tulbe Jesu Dang said Tulba di Shi, the singular Kiva Samla Sego Samare. They like Kindu Matani and another Cheva Yanda in a young cheba yanda yene tulbashi de semla sane magi wata sotu marwa
That's so.
semgile kewa samla dene tulbe jesu dang lago samare
That's so.
tulba dele kyendo mata waje dela
That's so.
yenden de tulsona jesu dang lago samara
That's so. So when it says following after confusion, again, it doesn't mean that just to have this thought in our mind is following that, because it is impossible. Even if we are perfect, genuine Dharma practitioner, it is not possible for us not to have this kind of thought sometime. But the problem is, if you don't recognize this thought as something bad, and if you think something good and follow whatever they says, and that is what it means when it says follows after confusion.
Hola. Tiindugeso dene ngazo tulbe jesu dangwa dang tulbale dolwaase ni sharwa tulbale dolwadi nazar bare tulbe jesu dangindi eni thamal baham cheba ine cheba tanang res di bardala dene tulba kewa gangshila jesu marawa jiyarwa
So now those of us, or those people who are already liberated from these four confusions are called yogi, and those people who are followings after these four confusions are called ordinary people or the simulating Dharma practitioner. But there's a second individual in between, who are not completely liberated yet, who can still have those thoughts but not following them.
제자들이 tulbadi semla yeba gangshila di jesu marawa dila namba kundu kyen tangi jiyarwa
That's so.
빵요 말에 이나 출발이 귤라 열에 이네 디기 딜라 연전도 따고 말에 견도 따네 빵에게 삼바 숙침보 열어
That's so.
드네 강사대 양디 고된 거 알아 어제든 정글로 사야기 개종송에 딜라송에서 그래서
So those the second and the in between individual who, even though have this kind of thought in their mind, but they always look at them something bad, and they understand their shortcoming of this confusion, and they never follow them, and they try very hard to shun them or to avoid them. And then I think this kind of person is what it means when Jamgu Kondru says the Gejong in Tibetan, or you can say the practitioner. Yeah. Last one. Gejong di la Sanskrit suji. Teliya mare.
어레 어디인데 그거다 출발 딜라더니 견도 맞다 어제 델라 윤된데 출네 디 제수 장소나 드니 님이 그래요라면 둥을 세다 끼게 했습니다.
Laso.
나도 직된 취게 열어.
Laso.
드니 직된 취게기 동바 끼게 델라 되네 레와단 동바 이 남도기 다와나라 취 드니 남바군도 둥을 바식 연구를 했습니다.
Laso. Then now, if you ask what is the problem of following them, then it will produce only suffering. That's the problem. That's all. And then mainly we have something called the eight worldly concerns, and we will have this strong sense of this, what we call the eight worldly concerns, and then we will be trapped in the net of our conceptual thought. Then we will never be free from them. And then that means we will be never free from suffering. And that is the problem of following them.
어라 띠인다더니 라마 고마스 송도와 난도 둥알 탐지기 따와디 다 네가서 둥알디 또 생기 둥알라 또 난도 트로와디 류기 트로와디 생기 트로와니 열어
So this time, when we are talking about the happiness and joy and suffering, again, we have to differentiate two different things: the physical happiness, joy and suffering, and mental happiness and joy. Now we're talking mainly about the mental joy and mental suffering.
어디에 것은 생기 트로와다 류기 트로와니기네 생기 트로와디 숙침으로 디인데 생기 semla dewa chimboyena luila dungal yena yang deni di sirgi nendo kore diinde semgi throwa di shukchimore diinde diga suda so deduk sedi semgi deduk di so shigo sare.
So when we talk about two different kind of feeling, the mental feeling and physical feeling, then mental feeling is more powerful than the physical feeling. For example, if you have a very comfortable feeling of your mind, very happiness, full of joy, then the little bit of the physical feeling will be overpowered by that, and you don't feel any more suffer from your physical suffering like that. Therefore, in this Doha of Milarepa, when he's talking about this happiness and miserable or suffering, then he's mainly talking from the mental happiness and mental suffering.
진짜들이 라마 고마 속에 숭해라 되는 것도 sem기 둥을디 또당 아니 또래 뒤인들 것들이 sem기 둥을 탐책이 싸와디 거래 했으나 직진 취객이 똑바들에 성래 직진 취객이 똑바들라 때는데 러와당 동바 망부지 연구하래 될라 때는데 창당 연구하래 에는 레도당 창당기더니 남도디 다와나시 차디 다와나라 쓰디가서 이런 간소라 기보당 셈시와던 대화용에게 고갑산이 매바 차이그래 성래.
So therefore, our lineage gurus of the past said that the mental feeling is more powerful than the physical, and then that's why the main cause or main origin of suffering, mental suffering, is again what we call the 8 worldly concern. And when you have this strong sense of 8 worldly concern, then it produces hope and fear, attachment and anger. Then all these different kind of the conceptual thought of hope, fear, attachment, and anger forms like a tech form of like a net in which our mind is tapped, and then we will be never free from the suffering of our mind.
알았어. 드리자더니 직진 취기기 몽두송에더니 최바다낭래 된데 최바다낭디 남양두 세지가서 내당 가와이네양 내 가와되네양 둥을 바식 들그래 강사 수단양도 조나양 둥을 바식 들그래 되니 내당 상행 가리 중나양 둥을 바식 들그래.
So those practitioners who are under the power of 8 worldly concern is what we call the artificial or seeming, the one who look like a practitioner but not real practitioner. And this kind of practitioner is always miserable no matter where he go, who he meet, no matter what kind of situation in life he's going through, because he's under the power of this, what we call the 8 worldly concern. Therefore, every situation will be miserable for him, and that's why he or she is always miserable.
드네 이들 가서 다 최바단낭단 나저반 얘기 개발된대래. 드네 나저반 마이나양 나저드니 미다바토 동니 마도나양 미다바토네 드네 직진 체계 권념도 그래. 직진 체계 권념도 그래. 직진 체계라 좀 때내 중에 레와든 동바 탐지 그 다와 돌도 그래. 다와레 돌도 그래. 드네 강사대양 나저바단 제수 준비 드네 기본 연구를 해서 그러질라면 녀몽 빵그 말해도 히네 녀몽 고년도 그러 직진 체계 고년도디 녀몽 바디 고년도 그래서 녀몽 바 고년도디 강사 대양 근데 최바 양다바 인도 가서 날저바 많이 나야 내륙다 또야 말어 내륙 마도나야 내륙도 배 날저바는 제수 틈배 근데 구양보 구양 마양 시와된 대화 연구를 해서 그러다 내당 간대지네 히네 강사 수당 도나양 아니 내 가와내나양 시대 바 시대당 아니 고향 방향 연구를 했습니다. 날저바 제스도 그랬습니다.
And that is the difference between the superficial practitioner and the real yogi. And somehow, even for those householder who can have some control over the what we call the 8 worldly concern, if you can bring them under your control, then you also become someone very similar to the yogi. You are not real yogi yet because you have not realized the nature of your mind, ultimate truth. But still, you are not letting yourself be controlled by those the 8 worldly concern. Therefore, you will be very happy all the time, no matter where you go, no matter who you meet, and you will be very spacious, very open-minded, and very happy. So this is something we can call who is similar to the yogi, even though it's not real yogi yet, because he or she has not realized the ultimate nature of mind.
올라서 딘다더니 출배 제수 당내 동을 댕기 집에 쳐바디 동을 댕기 집에 쳐바디 아니 남양도 써야 돼 된다디 디인스래.
So I think that is what it means when Milarepa saying, the practitioner who follows after confusion and produces suffering is always miserable.
나 되게더니 대두 신제 당보디 돌디지 시사이.
So I have completed a concise explanation of the first distinguishing happiness from suffering.
나 대두 신제 니바디더니 라타나 당보 특제들로나 마주 낭라 샹니 규메 랑서 다베 나저 남양데 출배 제수 중술 제수 당네 창당 랑거를 속에 쳐바 남양도.
And now I'm going to move to the second distinguishing the happiness from suffering, and I'm going to read the root text first, the Doha that was sang by Milarepa, which says, the yogi who rests within non-contrivances and is unchanging and pure with whatever happens is always happy. The practitioner who follows whatever feelings arise, letting attachment and aversion come as they please, is always miserable.
Hola. 다 데라 마주 낭라 샤네 소레. 다 마주 낭라 샤바디 나저 바레 소라. 다 마주 낭라 샤세디 그리슨 거래라나. 먼저 모두 니바여라. 모두 니바디 남도 신지께바 추구 랑들도 모두 바세디.
And then the first line here it says, when he says the yogi who rests within non-contrivances is I think the second introduction, which is the co-emergent conceptual thought is the natural display of Dharmakaya itself.
이 거래라나더니 마주 낭라 샤디도 가서 다 공기더니 랑랑기시 내루 된당 덴베 날줄바디라 되네 남도 막여와 미시바라 남도 끼에서는 남 날줄바디 거리지길라 남도라더니 견도다니 빵야여 말했습니다. 딘디 남도라 님부터네 마방송래 딘디 남도라 견도다니 빵야여 말해 남도 뭐 추구라.
So here, what it means is, in the previous one, when he says, the yogi who knows his own face and is in contact with the true nature's reality. So when you have realized the ultimate nature of your mind, then you will understand there's nothing to be shunned or nothing to be given up in your conceptual thought, because the very nature of your conceptual thought is nothing but Dharmakaya.
어디다더니 남도 기디 가서 남도라 견도다 남도 견에 되게 말했삼 남도 님보 때니 님보 거네 각비 솔와제나 디 되니 디데베 되니 남도기 이제디 쩨마레서
Therefore, if you think your conceptual thought something bad, and you think as something that should be get rid of, and if you try to get rid of it with some antidote or remedy, then that will become something we call contrivance, not non-contrivance, but it is something contrivance.
어디다더니 문에기 착진기 내룩 따와라 쩨마디 돌고 그랬습니다. 디인들이 쩨메 이제당 달와지고 그랬어. 이제 달와 차게 전부 인생도 어디인데 쩨메 이제당 돌고 그랬습니다.
So therefore, in Mahamudra practice, you should be free of any contrived conceptual thought, as it is says the Mahamudra, which is free of conceptual thought, is the Mahamudra. Therefore, you have to be free from the any contrived antidote or remedy kind of things.
어디다더니 남도 기획 가서 남도라 연딘듯다네 제수야 마랑 견듯다네 각바야 마제네 any Maju Barshana, Namto di Namto Niba Legumare, in the Namto di Jumigingang, any Juameba, give me the Doldo, Perna, any Sola, Charbabanasi, Sola Charbana, the Charba, Soji Chuni, Evani Tongmara, Chiku Dedora, or the Namto Kiwadilla, any Maju Baramba Susana, any Gumi, Gua Tamje, give me the Doldo, Penna Sola Charbabanasi.
So if you don't do anything, whenever you get some conceptual thought, and if you can rest within non-contraventions, then it will just pacify in its own self, and then it will just sit there. Just for example, it's like rain falls on the ocean or lake or pond, whatever you said, then the water of the rain become one with the water from the ocean or the lake, that you can differentiate between them. Just like that, if you don't try to follow your conceptual thought, or if you don't try to reject your conceptual thought, just rest within uncontraventions, then it will pacify in its own spot, and then that will be the practice of Mahamudra.
Hola, Tindadini, Namdo Kevadilla, Nimbugi, Chumba any Yundin than Jesu Madamaji, Maji Bangala Shagure, Tindi Shana, Tini di Hola Sungda, Gume Ransar da Sungda, Shana Karishagrela, Namdogi, Namdo Niba Chogumare, Tini Namdo di, Gudong, Gimme do Doldogre, Perna, Tini Sola Kawa Baba Nasiam, Sola Charbaba, Karila Nadigra. Sola Kawa Bamna, Soda Ermi the Dredogre, Sola Charbamna, Soda Ermi the Dredogre, the Indadini, Namdodi, Kijiniba Namdo Kigimare, any Midomang on the Doldogre.
So if you are able to remain or rest within contrivance without rejecting your conceptual thought with any antidote or without following it, then it will be liberated in unreason state, and just like whether I can say both. Example is snowing on the leg or raining on the leg.
Or did with the Namni Yungi Najurbadi, any Namdo Gati, Kenayang, Namdo di Midobi Ishiki, Ishi to Dolne. Then Namdo Tamje Midobi Ishi, Toegi Dosushar, any Lamdu Dogre, Lamdu Ketogre, or Dindi Najurba, Dinigi Kansa de la Najurba Segre.
And this kind of person will always be able to transform his conceptual thought into the wisdom of unconceptual thought, and then liberated from conceptual thought. So those people who can practice in that way and who has this kind of realization is called the yogi.
Dindi Najurbadi, Naming De, Sundugasu, Teni Nedang da Tagishabanashi, Ne Gawanere, Kansa Sudan Dronere, any Nedang Sanging Conditionere, Teni, did the number of the Deva, passing Yungres. And
since when you are able to transform your conceptual thought into unconceptual wisdom, then all your conceptual thought become something that is supportive to your practice. And this kind of yogi is always happy. And as I said earlier, when it says always happy, then again, same thing here. No matter who you are going association with, people, or what kind of situation you are going through, and no matter anyway, your inner happiness or joy doesn't depend anymore on outer environment. Therefore, this kind of yogi is always, anywhere he or she is always very happy.
Hola. Digi Dokchola, Jungsur Jesu Tangni, Chagdang Rangarsawi, Cheva Namyang Duksura.
And then the opposite of it is Milarepa said, the practitioner who follows whatever feelings arise, letting attachment and aversion come as they please, is always miserable.
Hola, things that so Chebatanang Tamalba Chebi Zusu, Tamalba Chebi Zusu, Nebe Chebatanang di, then Garjigilan, Jungsur Jesu Tang Sora, Jungana Sora Kari Badla, Kendo Tagmare, Kendo Inding in Name Chegmare, then these Jesu down to Grace. These Jesu down to Dumde Kari Yungrelan, then Chagdan Gigre, and Revadan Toba, Maumbala Revadan Toba Gigre, Tebadan Tatawe Jungsurla, Chagdan Gigre, Sangin Jisutane. Sangin Nisu Risu Jene, Chakbat Dawan Kegre, or the date of a Changdang the Redobanigi, Chingdogre.
So those ordinary people who appear to be like a practitioner, which we can call Hippocratic practitioner or a superficial practitioner, follows whatever feelings arises. They don't see the shortcoming of those feelings, and they just let attachment and aversion come as they please, which means then they also produce hope and fear, and then the result of that, they always be miserable no matter wherever they go, whatever they do.
Or the Dumde Karayungan, the Negi, Chebatanandi, the Nedang Kandijila in a young Dungal Sadan Yungre.
So yes, the result of that kind of practitioner is again always miserable in any kind of situation.
Or the Nigi Shugla, the Dinjin Bardadi, Tengora, Gijungi, Pena Jungsur, Jungse, and Sorte Samadi, Majib and Angla Shani, came to drill Matunayang. Junga the throw Tangmagi, Jesu Madama, Dela, Kunduta, any Nimbutella, Betul Jengizero, or Tinde Gansadi, the Bardaki Gansara, not the Dagi, Jangular Tagi, Gijungsmedi.
And then now the second person. Here we have the differences between yogi and the ordinary practitioner. And then as Yangpon Lodro has taught, three types of individual, which is between is his Gejong. Gejong is sometimes just translated ascetic or just a monk or whatever. And that is the second person anyway, in between these two. So the first one is one who, no matter what kind of conceptual thought, he just doesn't do anything, try to reject or try to follow, and then it just liberated on its spot. Then that is the yogi. And then here, the second one is, which Milarepa says, those of us who follows whatever feelings arises, and we just let attachment and aversion come together, and then produces all the suffering. Now in between, the Gejong or ascetic is one who, even though cannot let his conceptual thought be liberated right away, but at least he or she doesn't follow the conceptual thought, and then he or she try to avoid or shun through many different kind of antidotes by understanding the shortcoming of this conceptual thought. So this could be categorized in the second person, which Yangpon Lodro Thai says, the Gejong or ascetic or monk.
All of the Najruba and Chibatanang Niki Bardala, Chiba Yanda, Najruba Maina, Chiba Yanda in Gejung Jiara. Or the Gejung di Tanda, any Namdo Tama, Kemiking on the Dol Tugumaredi, Inayang, then Namdo la Kindu Tane, any Nimboteala, Petujiva in them, then Najruba and Jesutimbe, any Deva, Young Tugasare.
So that the second person or second individual, we can call him a genuine practitioner, even though he cannot manage for his conceptual thought to be liberated right away on unborn state, but still he or she is not following his or her conceptual thought, and then try by understanding the shortcoming of conceptual thought, he or she is at least trying to avoid or to shun them with the antidotes, and that is what we call the Gejong or the ascetic or monk. And then it says that he or she can experience feel a joy which is similar to the joy of yogi.
The Karre Lamanga that the Gansadi, 단다 창당다 레도기 똥바 베트코런 롤 투고 말이지 그냥 되니 딜 견도 따니 님부팅이 베트지게 받다더니 창당당 레도기 뒤바디 때서 흘러 자기로 흘러.
So even this kind of person, even though he is not being, or he or she is not being able to completely liberate all his conceptual thought right away, but somehow he can loosen the net or the knot of that conceptual thought, and that gives him the opportunity to have joy.
디인들이 내가 다 창당 레도기 뒤바 흘러 차네. 되니 날줄 받은 제수 틈베 직접 만용나야 제수 틈베 대화 용거래. 되니 대도는 마서 갈래갈래 날줄 배 고방대 토벨라 토백이 아니 고랑기 중화도 서로와 상마디 되니 칭화 마셔봐지 아니 칭화래 돌려기 날줄 배 람라 주가기 건도 암 날줄 배 고방 토백이 람도 캐도 그래 디인상 림기 날줄 배 고방 토바양 자기래 강사디.
And this kind of practitioner who has the loosen the knot or the net of hope and fear and all this conceptual thought is not a yogi yet, but he or she has a great opportunity to achieve the state of yogi very soon, because he has already loosened all these the knots and the nets of the fear, doubt, and hopes, and so forth. So gradually, he or she will definitely achieve the state of yogi in that way. So we can call this is some kind of preliminary of achieving the state of yogi.
드니 인자드니 정글 노래타에 송해기드니 개종세 강사 릭직디 제주 밀라레베 송구르 기드니 날주르 바당 최바다낭디 응외수 송네 디 슈글라 드니 날주르 바 마이네 최바 양다임비 개종디 슈글라 때나에 살였습니다.
So I think Jamgu Khenpo Rinpoche has taught three types of individual: yogi, ordinary people, and the monk or ascetic. And then in the song of Milarepa, in this particular song, he have taught directly these two kind of person, the yogi and the ordinary. Then indirectly in between, I think he's also teaching the third type of person which Jamgu Lodro taught, which is we call gejong or ascetic or monk.
아니 대둑 신지 니바디드니 제가 두르지 슈타이 가서.
So I think I have done a concise commentary on the second teaching of distinguishing happiness from suffering.
다 니제라 대둑 신지 숨바디 숨바드레 숨바디기 나 사와딜로나 당보 나와 추구르도네 레도 토숨체베 날줄 남양데 밥줄 토저 제네 최기 고만nembe 최바 남양도 세리 레도.
And then after that, of course, the third distinguishing happiness from suffering, and I'm going to read the Doha itself first, which is the root text, who says, the yogi who realizes appearances are Dharmachara and cuts through hopes, fears, and doubt is always happy. The practitioner who acts improperly and rashly and doesn't keep the eight concern in check is always miserable.
Hola. 다 니가 드링아서 나와 추구르도네 아니 레도 투숨체베 날줄 남양데 세디 다 나와 추구르도 세디 모두 숨바디 숨어서래 다 모두 숨바디 그러더라면 나와 추구이 라오도 모두 바송로와.
So when it says, Milarepa says, the yogi who realizes appearances are Dharmakaya, I think Milarepa is teaching us the third introduction or pointing out introduction. Let's say, usually Ngoto, in Tibetan Ngoto is we say pointing out introduction or instruction. And then which is Nawa Chogu. And now Chogu, yes. And then this is introduction of the appearance being the radiation of Dharmakaya itself.
Oh, that's the now the Chogu Rangway said. Tangato Tangbo the Tulbe Chala, that Simsha, any delay Simgi Namdo Tre, any Simgi Basha Sebala, then a Chirogi Nawa, to the Jung, the Nawa, the Namdo Nigadi, Simle Junga Shawara.
That's all.
The indigo didn't have no digital and Tango, Semdi Chiguru Motre, then the Sem Chiguru Motre on a dilatin, Sem Latinage when Namdodi, Chugu Rangsal to Motrigra, Trail a Lela Sagra. Or the Indian Sem Baksha Sebi to be now in Nawajiara, the Nawadi, Sem Chuguru Motresona, the Baksha Sebi to be now in Nawadiam, Chugu Rangu to Motrial a Lela Sagra.
So usually when we say we have our confused mind, and then because of that confused mind, we have different kind of conceptual thought, and from there, then all the suffering arises. Therefore, when you are given the pointing out instruction, then first of all, what we do is says your mind is Dharmakaya. So when your mind is introduced to be Dharmakaya right away, then it is easier. Whatever comes from mind, the conceptual thought, is the play of Dharmakaya itself. And then all the confused appearances, again, that came from your mind, is the radiation of Dharmakaya. So this is how you are being given the pointing out instruction. Your mind itself is Dharmakaya, and the conceptual thought is the magical play of Dharmakaya, and the appearances that came from the appearances that came from the habitual tendency of your mind is introduced to be the radiation of Dharmakaya itself. So these are how three different kind of the pointing of instruction on Dharmakaya. Last one.
Oh, last one. The Nawa Chigi Guru Motre said, then Nawa Chugu Rangu to Motreba said, Sura. The Logical Nawa did in Nangdong Sujura. Then Tongshin to Nawa, Nangshin to Toma, Nangdong Suju to Motreba, Motre Ducasu, then Nawa the Chugu Rangu to Motreba said, the Sunga. The Dani Nawa Chugu Guru Toba, the Najaba Sigre.
So when Milarepa said that the yogi who realizes appearances are Dharmakaya, here means again, when we talk about the Dharmakaya, then we say Dharmakaya is the unity of appearance and emptiness, and inseparability of emptiness and appearance. So appearance is as the radiation of Dharmakaya. Therefore, when Milarepa said the yogi who realizes appearances are Dharmakaya, is what he means that the appearance is the radiation of Dharmakaya.
Oh, last. That did it in now the Tamchi any Nangshin to Tongba Imba, any Tongshin to Magawa now in the Nangdong Sunju to Imbaladini. Tetum Chena Dini Delatene Dini Sangbo the Nimba Nisu Zimba Yungumare Dini Sangin Tamja Ronyam any Koga the Yangdi Ni Sangin the Zimba Yungumare Kondi Ni Ronyam or the Ronyam Gi Tawatogre or Ditona Dini Sangbola Reva the Nimbala Toba Rezogi Tawatamje Doldogre.
So when you have the certainty, free of doubt, that appearances itself is emptiness and emptiness itself is appearance, and there is no difference between emptiness and appearance, they are just one, unity or inseparable, then you become fully out of doubt of being so. Then you have no conceptual thought anymore of thinking things, something bad and something good, because you have already realized the equal test. What we say, equal test, one test, one test, and also you didn't have anymore the conceptual thought that says samsara is good and not bad, nirvana is good and so forth, because you have already equal test, realization of equal test of samsara and nirvana being the same. Therefore, then you have no more this, let's say, dualistic thinking of something being good and something being bad, because you have already realized everything as equal. Now you have what we call the equal test.
Oh, la. 다 데려외더니 나와 치고 구임발하더니 태솜집에 따와 길을 끼디 가서 아니 데려 떼내더니 성인당 콜데 성인 탐제 아니 로념도 또야디 간디스 연구를 가서 아니 능동 소주게 따와도나 셈디다 가서 남칼라 따와나시 구양보차 그래 디디더니 구양보차는 셈디 당보차 그래 해서 디디 구양보다 당보차는 셈디 아니 셈기 녀몽베 동안메바 셈 시와도 해봐차 그래 해서 디디더니 구양보 당보 아니 셈 잠보 잠보스나더니 주보메바 시와도 대화 연구를 해서 디인자들이 지디미라레베 딘디 날저바디 남양 대화를 해서.
So when you have this certainty that all appearances of Dharmakaya, then you become free from thinking something good and something bad. For example, samsara is bad and nirvana is good, and then you become free of that. You have equal trust, everything. Therefore, then you are always happy. And the reason why it is so is because when you have free, or when you are liberated from this kind of conceptual thought, let's say when you are free from attachment, when you are free from hope and fear, when you are free from anger and so forth, then your mind become very spacious, and your mind become very soft, and which means you can have all the good qualities in your mind, such as peace and then joy and pleasure, whatever you call. And that's how Milarepa then said, those yogi who have realized all appearances as Dharmakaya is always happy.
Oh, la. Well, Didovedi Najurba, Digi Doksodi Garthanadini. Chebatanang de Sonre. Di Tigding and Babjul Tojor Jenny, Chegi Gomanibe, Chebanamando.
And then the root test, the song of Milarepa, the opposite for that yogi, he said, when he's talking about the Hippocratic practitioner or the superficial practitioner, Milarepa said, the practitioner who acts improperly and rashly and doesn't keep the eight concern in check is always miserable.
Oh, Because the Babjul Tojer Jeba said, the Takje Matangni, then Cholam Jayaro, Cholam Dramida, then Gidi Gimbada Sangi Imbe, Penegi, Jeba Gayameba, Jeba di Jena Pengri Negre, then Digi Takje Gayameba, any Jeba di Gidi Gayam Badang, Dedu Karin Yungre, Jeba di Jena, or then Takje Gayameba, then Gang Jungjung Jadla, Jeba Babjul Sigora.
That's all. And then the first line here, when Milarepa says, the practitioner who acts improperly and rashly. What does it mean is, those who act without thinking of the result of their activity, whether it is a virtuous action or non-virtuous action, whether it will produce suffering or it will produce joy or happiness, without examining, without investigating anything, just to act whatever they want, whatever comes in their mind, to just act in that way is what it means here when it says act improperly and rashly.
All 다 데려베드니 밥절단 토지치바디 영고에기 중풍되거나 셈기나라 아니 최기기 똑바디 지딘 최기기 똑바더라
And then the reason why people are acting in that way is because they are under the control of what we call, again, the 8 worldly concern.
되니 직진 취기기 똑발라 견도마다 직진 취기기 똑발라 님보마된 되니 견도마다 님보마된 직진 취기 중결도 당사라.
So if you don't see the shortcoming of 8 worldly concern, if you don't apply any antidote to practice, and then if you just let whatever comes under the 8 worldly concern, that's what it is to mean when we say act improperly and rashly.
또 되니 취기기 님보디 거래라는데 치와미다바 섬네 체들의 신바방에 들어와.
And then and then the primary antidote of this 8 worldly concern is to think of impermanence and the death, and to give up attachment to this life.
나도 지당 직진 취기에서야디 림바니에서래서 세딜에 대비 직진 취기랑 세치마를 대비 직진 취기 니에서래.
And I think when we talk about this 8 worldly concern, again there are 2 types of it. One is depending or relating with this life, and the other one is relating to the next life.
pero chasenang da sedila ngado tamnyenda nyeba tamnyembo teba ene sorwa dewa di shila ngado yende taji도 yende dagira digi dokcho shidila tini taji도 gyen dagira di se digi di galcho dan rupcho shidila tini gyen dang yende taji도 dawadi sedila debe jidin chegi to bara.
So the thought of the, let's say the 8 worldly concern is, first we always think if somebody press you, or if you get some gift, and if you become famous, and then the pleasure of this life, then we always think these are something good. And then the opposite of the other 4 opposite of this, we always think something bad for this life. And that is what I think the 8 worldly concern relating with this life.
드니 가서 치와 미다바 섬네 드니 미다바 길라 계속나 드니 세 디기 드니 튼초 시다 미튼초 시라 타직도 견도 인된도 따와디 인된도 심바디 돌도그라 가르라는 미다바라 섬로당 레균데라 섬로당나 드니 세 디기 푼소 인디기 차디양 데라양 견 님이 망보여래 드니 레균데라 섬로당나 세 디 드니 미튼초 시다랑 인데 망보여래 어디에 가서 드니 세 딜러 대비 지딘 취계의 본념적으로 이내양 코로나 심바디 여러 개와지마 나 폴리기회 개보톱고 에네 하나미 고방 사이 온보 선바 계진 고방 톱고 삼바이나 디가레 치마라 대비 지딘 취계 또 봐도 디 개와지마 폴리기회 개보톱디 가서다 나도 땀님보 네바 에니 때바 소라데와디 푼수소바 용거래 어디에더니 코로나 개와지마더니 먼저 하나미 고방 분선서바 통고도 선배 치마더니디 치마기 최계라 신바예백인 세례다 말에 이 직디 치마라데베 최계기 또 버려도.
So if you meditate well on impermanent or impermanent nature of our life, then you will become free from this what we call the 8 worldly concern. And then again, if you think about the cause and effect, the karma, then you will find it out that what we usually think good also have so many bad things, and then what we usually think bad, the four of them are bad, also have some good things, and so forth. Therefore, if you really meditate well on impermanent nature of life and the karma, cause and effect, then you will become equal, someone who has the equal test of this, what we call the 8 worldly concern, and then you are free from that. But still, and that is what I said earlier, the eight worldly concern related with this life. And the next life, again, if you wish to have a higher a rebirth in a higher realm, such as you would like to take a birth of Chakravartin king. That's the Sanskrit word. Some in English it translates like universal monarch, but I don't know if it has equivalent meaning of Chakravartin or not. So I'm just using the Sanskrit word Chakravartin king. Or if, of course, if you can get the Chakravartin king, then you have everything what we say, like praise for from others, and a pleasure, and then all these things anyway. And also, if you want to get the higher realm in the God's realm, such as the state of Indra or Brahma and so forth, then this is the what we call the eight worldly concern relating with our next life.
Hola. Tiene que ser tiene cap de la chegue goma no se zodi se dile de jidin chege yoro.
So
Se dile de jidin chege de gonina tiene chiwami da bagila ke gora. Tiene chiwami da bagila ke sona tiene se dile de jidin chege la changdangni 용 말에 se dile de jidin chege de gon념도 그래. 디인들이 jidin chege gon념도 그래서. dinle gon념 선들이 예중 양다 요 말에 그냥 세들레 실로 양다 여러 디디 최바로 기부충을 해도 그냥 최바로.
So if you have meditated well on impermanence, then here actually talking mainly the eight worldly concern related with this life. Usually we have a full of attachment to this life because of this worldly eight concern. But if you have some understanding of the ultimate nature of them, then you will be free from attachment them. Then you can practice well. Even though you are not the perfect practitioner yet, but still you have somehow little control over what we call the eight worldly concern. So we say this is out of the three individuals. We say this is inferior individual, or Khenpo Chungu in Tibetan, if you understand Tibetan. Lasso.
디인들이 가서 세 치마를 때에 지디 최계기 심바디 연양 세 딜을 때에 처음이다 보길래 깨네 세 딜을 때에 지디 최계기 심바디 돌서나 되니 최바 차고 아래 이내한다 기부 중으로.
So even though if still have the eight worldly concern in your mind relating to next life, but somehow if by meditating on impermanence enough, if you become someone who is free of eight worldly concern relating this life, then you are a practitioner. But somehow you are still a practitioner, what we call the inferior individual.
Hola, 디인들이 세 딜을 때에 최계 처음이다 보길래 깨네 세 딜을 때에 최계 고년 소나양 되는 간서 미게 외쳐봐 미교 주기 줘봐 빵도 그래 디인자들이 밥줄당 토지 줘봐디 빵도 그래서 디인자들이 제 디르데베 지딘 주기 또 봐요 고만네나 되네 퇴바당 삼바 고마 숨가 전에 되나 돈바시 수dim송 되네 퇴바제 삼바제 고마 전에 디 수dim당 최선 공선디 이 최단능적으로 말도 최양다적으로 말해서.
So if we are not able to control or bring under control what we call the eight worldly concern, then no matter how many vows we take, no matter how much study we do, and no matter how much contemplation we do and meditate we do, we are still not a perfect or genuine practitioner. We are just a hypocritic or superficial practitioner. But if you become someone after meditating on impermanence and someone who is able to bring under your control this worldly eight concern, then at least you are a practitioner, even though you are still the inferior individual practitioner.
Olas, tene idu tene jigdin chugi chedila shimbe wangi jigdin chugi gi tobala tobe on the song ne any chudim dane cheba samba gomba sum gi chuldi jena yang di tene tambi chusu maro inzang di gi nyemong gi nyembo maro je any nyemong phe gi gendu gre tene inza tene tene gi chesum gonsum gi cheba di tene babjul dang tojo chagre esnada.
So if you have no control, if you cannot keep the eight worldly concern in check, if you not control them, and then no matter whatever vow you take, whatever study you do, contemplation and meditation, they are all in an improper and rashly way, and so they are not the real Dharma practice.
데려베드니 쳐바디 뒤 남양 이니 둥을 바시 용그래 손에다 내땅 컨데라 이내래 내 가와내내래 강사 수단 도내래 되니 디 탐지 둥을 바시 이게 그래 손에 강사들라.
And those kind of person who doesn't keep the eight worldly concern in check is always miserable, no matter where he or she goes, no matter with whom she or he associate. In every situation, in every environment, he or she is always miserable because he or she is under the control of eight worldly concern.
Olas, digidini dedu shenje sumbadi ki tunda durjiji eni shitsason. Pachil gantu disu tsaren sarere kimbo.
Long la, tu zo sa song ne ke la chu ma fo de yo. Ta ki tes go ji chi bo cha so la. Ti ki ta la de chi bo jing tu. Ka ma ni shu zre de chi nga tu sa ni la. And I think that completed a concise explanation of the third distinguishing the happiness from suffering.
Olas, dedu chesumjebe geso di rangshin sumjin tamjegi chidu moada monamgi samjar na ishu.
So please let us do the dedication of this merit, whatever merit we have received from this class, listening Dharma, and let's dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. Okay, let me join, please. Oi sonam de ye tam je se bai ye thom ne ye be ta na tham je je ga na je pa la ro ba ye se be so la ro wa ra cho jam ba la ba wo je tra khen ba quân đô sang bộ thế yan thế xin thế thế ta quân ye Jesu đa lo yên ge wan thế ta tham ji rao do ngô sang ye go sang ye be xie la xie ye me ye de be xie la ye de be ye de be xie la ye xie tra ho wa ya ma la Drupon Khenpo Lodro Namgyal Mahasamaya Sato